I didn't love that Chad Gable got cleared and came back as fast as he did. Because it feels like if you leave bodies in a heap all over the place, you're trying to get over that this group is dangerous. Everybody was scared about it. Now, no, Chad Gable didn't get shot. They don't have a gun. At least they didn't last week. But they sold it big in terms of their destruction, and he gets cleared and comes back. Like, should he ever been announced for that match? I guess he had to be because he won it. And there was all kinds of stuff going on. And, the Judgment Day with Braun and Gable getting the victory. Sure. But as we saw, I don't know if her name's Abby or Nikki Cross, whatever, she comes out. He stands there for a second. And Gable's right there. Also, great visual. My goodness, is she nailing this. She comes out. She's got that box. And Gable sees her, looks, stays there for a second, and then he's like, I'm out of here. And I think it's got to be that way. And she goes out to the commentary table where Pat McAfee was not. And gives Michael Cole the box, and it's the VHS tape, and all that stuff. That's what he sees. Now, I'm not sure, because my initial thought when Pat wasn't there at the start of the show is, they're in Indy. Triple H was on McAfee's show yesterday. That's where Pat lives. They've clearly been doing some stuff within Pat's show. And then he wasn't there. So it's easy to jump to the conclusion of, okay, something happened to Pat because he's been kind of laughing about it all. And now I saw the report from Wade Keller from the Torch saying last second family emergency, he couldn't be there. I'm not going to speculate on that. If you just go by logistics, it would be weird of all places, considering Pat does his show from Indy where he lives, for him to not be on the Indy show. Like, if you're going to run an angle, wouldn't you do it on a week where they were further away and not in his hometown? I hope everything's good with Pat and his family. That's what matters most, but they were able to continue on with the story anyway. We put the poll up now. What do you think on the follow-up to the Wyatt Sicks? And what we would see is Howdy interviewing Bo, or whatever you want to call him. And it was emotional, and it was real. And I saw some comparisons to the Jeff Jarrett thing, and they're obviously two very different things. Whereas it feels like with the Wyatt Sicks, they are making Bray part of the lore. They're making Bray part of what this is. It feels like, based on what they showed last night and the people that are involved and all the messages in the QR codes, it's an internal struggle with dealing with all of this. And it's a psychological thing. It's, there is the horror movie, it's psychological. It's not about being supernatural, and they got to get away from that. Tim, interesting point. I think it showed all the clues where Uncle Howdy talking to Bo. And maybe that's it. It's maybe all the characters that we have seen in the Wyatt Sicks are separate but the same all at once. Who was talking to who last night? Was that the mirror? Was that an inner monologue? It was a morsel. A sizable morsel, but a morsel. And I think when you look at this story, and I think when you look at wrestling as a whole, I think when you look at television, because that's what this is, when you think of all of that as a whole, how long can you keep people's attention spans? Mine just diverted off for a second because the Great Stambino just hit us up there. Thank you, Great Stambino, for the old VHS throwback, which you could probably get for $1.99 somewhere. or probably an entire VHS. Oh, I almost did it wrong. An entire VCR. I saw Andre Chase say this. It's not a VHS machine. It's a VCR. And for those who don't know that, there were these never mind. But how long can you draw this out? How long can you do things that don't have to do with the ring? Are we going to see further situations or similar interviews where it's whatever Nikki Cross is now talking to Nikki Cross? All of that kind of stuff is interesting, but how long can that be dragged out? Do people get tired of it if it's the same stuff over and over? You came out of the gate in terms of the debut. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff before that. Very hot. How do you keep the momentum going, telling the story without people checking out? Can they do what they did last night 4 more times? Does that get released in other ways? Also, here's one weird thing that I think needs to be at least addressed. Why is this confined to Raw? Do they have control of Adam Pearce? There was some stuff on the social media that indicated that they did. He's saying no. He's acting like it never happened. These don't feel like characters confined to a draft or draft rules. Now, there's some kind of at least initial targeting with Chad Gable, but it doesn't feel like these people should be confined to a brand. I'd like to see how they address that. There's, Nick Aldis saying we've beefed up security. They didn't show up Friday. Okay. But unless they have a clear, concise motivation specifically to people on Monday Night Raw, why is this group only on Raw? The Pierce thing may be part of that. Does he not realize he has given them access? Some poll results here. 73% loved the interview. 18% thought the videotape was and 9% are not a fan of the Supernatural. I ask you this. Do you look at an interview like that when it's the same person talking to each other? Is that supernatural to you? Is it the magic of television? I didn't take that as supernatural. I don't, is it Papa Shango making people have goo come out of their face or whatever, or the Undertaker, stuff like that? I think there's a line there. Supernatural is setting Bray on fire and then he comes back and wrestles. That's supernatural. Stuff like that, supernatural. The whole thing you got to be careful of is that they're not indestructible. You can be supernatural to the point that you can go inside the mind kind of way. But I don't think you can be indestructible. I don't want Joe Gacy or Rowan or Nikki or any of them you can't beat them. Like, it can't be. I was the problem with Bray. The Fiend couldn't be put down until Goldberg beat him. Until Randy Orton hit him with one RKO. You can't. Then you run into problems with booking them. But I thought it was a nice morsel that they followed up on. And just enough. And what I wonder now, on top of all of that, is because there were no notable or known attacks or anything last night, does that air of concern linger still over Raw if you're a talent? Do they have to still go like, you never know? They could be. Do they want them to keep that up? Do they want the talent to be worried about it at all times? And then maybe I don't know. Still waiting to see. Everybody liked, from what I saw, you guys like it on the poll. A really good follow-up. Very personal in talking about Bray from his brother. There was something real about that. I saw a lot of tweets posting like, my goodness, that was heavy. And not what you would expect as a follow-up. You know, that right there on its own might look ridiculous if you don't know. But what they got out of that was special. Now, does that make them baby faces? That I'll ask you guys as well. Let's get that up as a poll. Are the Wyatt Sicks Wyatt Sicks group, are they baby faces or heels? Or third option, not enough information to tell. Because we don't know any of the people that they attacked last week other than Chad Gable, who might be the number one heel on either show right now, just in terms of how he's treated the people around him. And then the interview last night was very touching, very real, very raw and personal. Pardon the pun on raw. So is this a group we're supposed to have some sympathy for? We're supposed to get where they're coming from in a way? I wonder. What do they want this to be? Is it that vigilante feeling of they can do whatever they want, but they only target those who deserve it? That, I know Dexter Lumis is in the group. That's what Dexter Lumis kind of turned into. It was nowhere near at this level, but Dexter Lumis, like abducting Miz and doing all that stuff, it's like, it's kind of shitty he's doing that, but at the same time, it's Miz, so go for it. By the way, final poll on our first poll, 79% of you liked what the interview was. 14% thought the videotape was and 7% are not a fan of Supernatural. But that's a strong majority that liked it. Keep an eye on your thoughts on that as we go forward, and make sure you always vote on our polls. And if you're not doing so, maybe because you're watching elsewhere, get to us at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. We'll talk more about it, and our community page always active with that, and you can vote on the polls here, which is what you want to do, because we are the most interactive wrestling show out there. I promise you that. So moving on to other parts of the show. So far, 78% of you say not enough to tell so far if they're baby faces or heels. And yes, as Rob said, you can subscribe right under Todd. There's Todd at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. That's where you want to be. Thank you. Hey, this is Matt Camp. Thanks for checking out one of our recent clips from The Wrestling Mat. Why is someone so close to The Rock kind of throwing Cody under the bus?
Yeah, a lot of people won't engage with Jim Cornette. I did, just because I have a mark for Jim Cornette. And
Please subscribe right now. Hit the like and turn on notifications so you don't miss a thing. And I think you should listen to your TV partners. Let me tell you about WWE and a little insight. More subscribers means more content. And make sure you follow us on social media at WrestlingMat23 on both Twitter and Instagram.